Here we go. Had to push. All right. All right. Now I want to introduce our guest presenter this evening, Mr. Thomas Gump, to be official. But as we all know Tom very well, that's how he goes, first name. He is serving as the director of the main governing body of Rotary International. He's also a recipient of Rotary International's prestigious Service Above Self Award, given to only 150 Rotarians worldwide. And his service includes founding the world's first Rotary Club for veterans, and let's see if I can get this, and co-founding the first Rotary Club focused on ending human trafficking. He also established a Rotary Community Corps for refugees in Minnesota. He is from Minnesota, and you'll hear in just a moment, directly supporting hundreds of Afghan and other refugee families as they rebuild their lives. Internationally, he has helped form a club for Egyptian doctors, serving communities globally, and supported major peace building work in Istanbul, Turkey. His hands on community impact ranges from aiding Minneapolis businesses affected by civil unrest to building wells in Honduras, where his return visits have revealed a tangible reduction in infant mortality. Tom's humanitarian leadership continues to inspire Rotarians worldwide. He's a member of the Edina Morningside Rotary Club and is a past district governor of District 5950, serving central Minnesota, including the Twin Cities. Please join me with a warm welcome in this cold season with Tom Gump.
Thank you so much, Kurt. I really enjoyed that thoroughly. And, our president-elect Yinka has been telling us that we need to tell stories about the value, the personal value we derive from Rotary to our friends and family so we can grow Rotary. And now, Kurt, you can tell everyone that you became a AV expert and a computer expert tonight because you learned how to record on the Zoom. So value received, leadership development at its best. But I am very honored to be here with all of you. And I think I'll see a lot of you. How many are coming to PETS, Lone Star PETS? All right. And how many people are coming to RMDTI coming up? Okay, good.
Some of us may not know completely, Tom, what RMDTI is because we may not have participated in it. If you want to go ahead, that'd be great.
Yeah, that might be the toughest question I get all night because everyone says RMDTI, but I think it stands for Rotary Multi-District Training Institute. I always have Jeff to back me up if I can't answer a question about Texas, but I'm really honored to be here. I am the director-elect for our paired zones, which starts up in Canada, goes to the middle of the U.S., Minneapolis, Chicago, and to Texas, and then 25A into Central and part of South America. So we are all brothers and sisters in the same zone. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Kurt and Lisa asked me to do a little bit of talking tonight about generally the overall concept of membership and how we can sustainably grow membership. And I love that you asked me that question because we don't want to bring in a bunch of people and then lose a bunch of people. We want to make sure that the membership we do is sustainable. So I'm going to pull up a slideshow. And like Kurt said, if you have any questions anywhere along the way, please stop and ask me because I'm always willing to answer a question. You don't have to the end if you don't want to. So Lisa was kind to make that first slide. So I'll get to the next slide here. Okay, who could tell me what Rotary number one internal priority is in Rotary? Who could tell me? What's our number one priority? It's on the screen. That's a hint.
Membership.
Yes, membership growth. That's right. But why do we, and our number one external priority is eradicating polio, but our number one, that's our programmatic number one priority. Our number one priority for our membership is growing membership. But why do we want to grow membership? We're always talking, well, let me tell you first about this picture. I was on the mezzanine level. This was at the Melbourne Convention. And if you see all the people in the yellow vests, those are the Rotarians. But you can see there's more people there than just people in the yellow vest. those are people who are just walking by this outside venue and were wondering what we were doing, and they helped us pack food that day. And I just love that, Rotarians doing good and inviting others. I mean, that's just a good model that we can follow. Okay, so why do we want to grow membership? It's great to say we want to grow, but why? So who can give me an answer as to why we want to grow membership?
We can do more good in the world.
Exactly. We have more hands and hearts to do service. Nobody joins an organization to do nothing or joins a club to do nothing. They join to do something. Here, this is when last year, then President Stephanie and I went to the Philippines, and they had just built 250 homes for people who didn't have a home to live in, and they're in the process of doing more. That's the kind of thing that we want to do in Rotary. I want to bring others who are like-minded who wanted to serve along with us. So the current state of membership, we have 1.125 million Rotarians, and we have 125,000 Rotaractors. So our current membership right now is 1.25 million. But just think if we doubled that number, we have twice as many hands and hearts to do the service of Rotary. So recently, the Rotary International Board of Directors came up with a goal. So by 2030, that'll be our 125th anniversary. They want to have 1.25 million members. So it's easy to remember because at our 125th anniversary, we will have 1.25 million members. Now, last year, we hit a substantial goal at the end of the year. We hit $2.25 billion in the foundation in 2025. The way they did that is they set a goal, they hired some more foundation staff. Wonderful Rotarians like you had $1 million journeys and other events that raise money. So what we decided at the board of directors decided about 10 days ago, right after International Assembly, which Kurt, I guess you will go to next year, right, in Orlando?
Correct.
Okay. They decided to put $150,000 towards having 8 events around the world in different places to season this concept and to help us get there. And there's a lot of things going on. We're redoing the membership leads platform, which now instead of sounding salesy and transactional, we're going to call it prospective new members. And we can talk about that if you want to. But basically, instead of having people go on the website and then go to that information, go to the district, now the prospective member goes through a series of questions and they get assigned to a club in their area that fits their needs. It'll ask if you want a Rotaract experience at the beginning or a Rotary experience. And I saw a demo of this for the first time yesterday during our Rotary International Membership Growth Committee, and it's pretty cool. And we have a bunch of different campaigns that are going to help all of us reach that number. But of course, Rotary happens at the clubs. How many club presidents do we have on the line? Okay. Okay, good. And how many president-elects do we have?
Well, I'm president-elect, so
President-elect, okay.
voting early.
Yep. So, Wesley, you and your fellow president-elects are going to be the most important people in Rotary next year because Rotary happens at the club. It doesn't happen on the 18th floor of headquarters in Evanston, Illinois. It happens at our club. The club is where we bring in members. It's where we raise our funds. It's where we, season all the things we need, like eradicating polio, getting all those advocacy things done. So when Kurt said sustainable growth, I knew that you guys were already on the right track because sustainable is what we want. I was club president. I contacted all my friends I know, and I was able, with the help of the others in my club, bring in 31 members into my club the year I was president. And I was all proud that I brought in 31 members. But my friend Jim, who is a very wise counselor, he's an attorney, he counseled me that it's not important. It's good to bring in members, but you have to actually keep them there. And he asked me if we had a new member orientation. At that time, we didn't. So Rotary, on average, brings in 150,000 a year, roughly. And then every year we lose about 160,000. So we really aren't having trouble bringing people in. But if you think about it, If we didn't lose that 150,000 every year for the last 10 years, then we would have 1.5 million on top of the 1.2 that we already have. So it's important to bring in members. It's important to keep those members. So if you look at Rotary overall, there's only 3 ways to grow Rotary, but I want to talk about 4 things before we get to have any answers, questions and answers. So the first way to bring in Rotary is, who knows the first way to bring in Rotary? Lori or Jim? What do you think? What's the first way we bring in members?
Yes. Ask people you already know, like, and trust.
Yes, we bring in members. We bring in members in Rotary. That's one way. Then who could tell me what the second way is?
You can start a new club.
You could start a new club. That's right. That's another way. And then we bring them in, we start a new club. What else do we have to do?
Invite them to an event that
Invite
Rotary's
them to
hosting?
event. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so why do we invite people to events?
To expose them to the things that we're doing in Rotary.
Right, right. So when we engage them, and there's so many different ways to engage in Rotary, and we could spend a whole hour talking about those different ways. But if you think about it, we bring them in, but if we're not doing things, they leave. So when we bring them in, some people call it retention, which is an okay word, but I like engagement.
Engagement.
Because engagement means they're active, and if they're active, they're happy. They're going to tell their friends and family. They're going to bring more people in. So we attract members, we engage members, and we form new clubs. So you guys already know the answers. But we have to do all 3 of these at the same time. You know, a lot of people think there's a silver bullet on how to grow Rotary, and they come, we just do this. But really, we have to do all these things. But when it wraps, there's something that wraps around all 3 of those, and that's the club experience. Because let's face it, if we don't have a good product, if people are coming to our clubs but they're not happy, what happens?
Quit.
They quit. That's right. They walk away. But if they're happy, then they stay. So we're going to attract new members. We're going to keep those new members. We're going to form new clubs, but we're going to make sure the culture is right. So those are 4 things, but I think of them almost like a Venn diagram where we're doing all 3 of these, and club culture kind of wraps around the outside of it. So the first one, we talk about attracting new members. So, you know, Larry, Rotary International President nominee, Larry Lunsford, who's from the U.S., and he's in our paired zones. He is up in Kansas, Missouri. He says we have to be intentional about that. And I really love when he talks about intentionality. So yesterday we had our membership growth committee meeting. So we have 6 people from around the world who have been very successful in starting clubs and bringing in people and doing all these things that we're talking about. So I was thinking about what President Larry would say if he was there, and he was supposed to be there, but he got called away. So I went around the room and I said, can each of you, because I figure, you know, they say if you write something down, you remember it, or if you say it out loud, you remember it than just thinking about it. So I had each of them do like a covenant, you know, with staff there and with all of us committee members. And I said, tell me the one thing you're going to do between now and our next Rotary International Membership Growth Committee meeting, our next committee meeting. What are you going to do? And they all went around and said what they're going to do. And it inspired me. And so next meeting, I was on staff today saying we're doing the memorandum or the agenda rather for the next meeting. And I said, okay, we're going to follow up on that and see if everybody did that. And you know, there doesn't have to be any magic way. People ask me, you know, what's a different way you attract members? What I did in my year, and again, you don't have to do this, but it worked for us. Whenever, you know, when you have a board meeting for your club, and you know, the first thing you do is, what do you do? What's the first thing you do at a meeting, in a club board meeting?
Take attendance.
You take attendance. Then what's the next thing you do? Karen, what do you do at the club board meeting? Karen McDaniels.
There we go. We do the 4-way test.
We do the 4-way test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Judge Andy, what do you do after that in your board meeting?
Probably go over the agenda, review the agenda.
Exactly. And then
Oh.
you look at the financials, and then you talk about the next social, you talk about the new service project. But now, Kurt, what should you do if you're a club president, the first thing in your board meeting?
Who have you invited to the last event we've had recently?
I like that. I like that. You know, when you're president of your club, you got the bully pulpit and you can say
Yeah.
what's important to you. And I decided when I was club president, to me, the most important thing was to try to get my friends into Rotary.
Yeah.
Because I thought if we got more people, what happens? We have more people to raise more money, to do more international service projects, local service projects. Everything goes better when you have more smiling, happy faces. And nothing made me more proud is when one of my friends came in from wherever, from a neighbor, or from the place that you worship, my church, from the gym, you know, they just love it. So anyways, if you go into the board meeting, you say, before we do the pledge and before we look at the minutes and before we do the treasure, we're going to talk about membership. And you as president don't have to do it all. If you have a friend who is a retired female, you can pair her up with another retired female who might be better than someone who's working and understands her position better. But make it your #1 priority, and I promise you, you will grow. They have the Club Excellence Award. It used to be Club um, Citation.
Yeah.
But President Stephanie didn't like that because it sounded like you were getting a ticket. So we changed it to Club.
I always thought it sounded like a traffic. I did too.
It's good being judge. It's good being judge, and it's good being president of Rotary International because you can do a few things that are fun. Of course, as a judge, Judge Andy gets paid, and President Stephanie didn't get paid. So being a judge is better. But if you do that, everything's going to get better. When we did our Club Excellence Award back then, um, we hit out every category, whether it was raising money for polio, what it was bringing in more members. When you bring in more members, everything else goes better. But what we did is we sat down our board of directors and I said, okay, we're going to look at our club and we're going to see who's in that club. And we started with the alphabet, the American alphabet, English alphabet, A, B, C, and listed down to Z. And then we said, okay, A, what kind of classifications do we have in A? Do we have an architect in the club? Well, we don't have an architect. So who knows an architect? Well, maybe Maggie, who's on the screen, maybe she's got a brother-in-law who's an architect. Maybe Kurt's knows a friend who's an architect. Then they'll do that for accountants and go to B, do for bankers, do it for C all the way through. We actually got through L, and we actually got a landscaper in and a librarian in. We never got to Z for zookeeper. But you know what? It's just a process that makes you think about it and makes it intentional. Before we made it our #1 priority, we would just go in, we'd have breakfast with our friends, and it was fine. We didn't really think about membership because somebody would leave, maybe somebody died, but we never looked and said, okay, over the last 5 years, we've been declining like this. So attracting new members is important. So our next one, and the things I listed on here, it talks a little bit about how do you make your club attractive? Because if you're bringing new people in, you have to say, why would they join? So if you have if you make your dues affordable, I know you can't change your district dues, but Kurt can in 2 years. But you could change your club dues. You could change your service projects. And it doesn't hurt to do a little survey and just ask them, do you like the service projects we're doing? Do you like the socials we're having? That kind of thing. If they think you might want to ask them if you think you're meeting too much, once a week. I love the traditional club that I'm in. We meet once a week, 4 times a month. But these are just things you should think of. I didn't make these things up. They come from our all-member survey. So when we're talking about how to attract people, you have to see what do they want. When we ask people in the all-member survey, what do they want? The #1 thing that people want is they want friendships. I joined Rotary because I was a recovering attorney, and nobody likes attorneys. Sorry, Judge. So I joined Rotary for friendship, and I think a lot of people do. The surveys tell us that. They also join because they want to serve their community. And then they want to rub shoulders with people of significance in their field. They want to do business. They want to make They want to do well in their business. Now, Rotaractors join for some of the same reasons, but it's different when you look at their emphasis and the percentage of people who join for different reasons. The number one things a Rotaractor looks at is developing skills. And Rotaractors, things are more important to Rotaractors than to Rotarians. If we have a bad club president, let's face it, if you have a good club president, everything goes well, you grow. If you have a bad club president, you might lose some people. In Rotaract, having a good president is more important to Rotaractors than it is to Rotarians. Now, people join for a reason, and they might stay for a different reason. They might join for friendship, but they might stay for service. But these are the things to think about when we're making our club attractive. So, when you're thinking about how to engage or how to retain, you don't look about what makes your club attractive. You look at why they're leaving. And so the surveys show the top 4 reasons why people leave are the club environment. That's number 1. These are ranked as to the highest. Number 1 is the number 1 reason they leave. Number 2 is the number 2 reason they leave. So club environment, people want to be in a place where they feel like they're welcome. If someone feels they or there's a clique here or something like that, they don't like it, they'll leave. And it's a PR issue, public relations or public image issue for Rotary, because they might tell people they left because Rotary is like this. And so many times they think of Rotary as just the club they were in, not the overall Rotary International. Unmet expectations is the number 2 reason. So when we're recruiting people or we have a new member orientation, how many people have a new member orientation in their club? Oh, that's great. That's wonderful.
We also have one in our district on the video on the Zoom level.
I love that. I love that because if someone, when I was recruited to my club, they said, Edina Morningside Rotary Club, we do this. I had no idea there was a district. I had no idea there was a zone or a region or international. So having it at the district level gives people an opportunity to see the wider Rotary. It opens their eyes to more opportunities. So let them know how much it costs. If your club has an expectation they give to the foundation, whatever it is, let them know ahead of time, because there's no reason asking them to start if they're not going to be happy there. Number 3, time obligations or financial obligations. If it's too expensive, and let's face it, our cable bills are going up, everything's going up, you might want to consider, seeing if that's an issue and how we can solve it. My club did just this year, is they decided to once a month have Rotary in the workplace, where we go to someone's business, and if it's a nonprofit, we do a service project. And sometimes we go to some of the community organizations we support and we do a service project there. But instead of paying $800 at the country club for a hot breakfast, we have donuts and coffee, which is about $100. So, there's different things you can do. But I say one of the most important things you could do as a club president or a district governor is to do a survey and ask people what they want, because you don't know what they want. And that's how often should we do a survey? Who's got an idea? What does Rotary International say about how often we should do a survey?
At least once a year.
Once a year. And
At
why
least.
is that? Why is that? That's the right answer. Gold
Your
star.
membership changes.
That's right. New people are coming in, other people are leaving. What's popular now with the club may change in the future. Personal circumstances. People might get a job. Someone might have a baby, that kind of thing. I'm really glad that that's number 4, because that's the one we can't control. But the great news is, of the 4 primary reasons people leave, 3 are in our control. The last one's not. So we should be able to engage our members and keep them. And one of the best ways to serve, the best way to engage is service projects. When I was working with President Stephanie last year, she would always say, don't invite people to a meeting. I don't necessarily agree with that, but she would say, don't invite people to a meeting, invite someone to a service project. And I really like that idea. And I belong to a traditional club, and some of our service projects may not be cool for younger people nowadays, like picking up trash along the highway on trash day, on highway cleanup day. But if you go to a restaurant after and have lunch, or you get together for donuts before or whatever, give them a hat, give them a t-shirt. Those things get to be fun too. But when I say serve in meaningful ways, I think it's important that we serve the way people want to serve. You know, we had some people leaving in our club a couple of years ago, and we sent out a survey and asked them, "Do you like our service projects?" And you can tell when your club's getting a little weaker because people stop coming to meetings, you know, and then you start using them. But we asked people what they wanted to do, and what they said is, we want to serve the refugees coming in. And we had never thought about that before. So we listened to them, we did that. People started coming back to meetings and people got engaged. It was great. Now, I have a picture of this club here because that's the Veterans Club we started in Minnesota. And I like this picture because the Veterans Club was formed not for people who are veterans. You know, we have non-veteran members in the club, but the club was formed to serve veterans. So what they're doing here is we went to a homeless shelter for vets called Havens for Heroes, and they gave us the first floor of one of the buildings, and we sanded the walls and we painted them, and we brought in pool tables and foosball and darts and stuff like that. But that was meaningful to them because it was serving veterans. And they do they still do the the 5 avenues of service. So serving youth, they do Toys for Tots. You know, they get together with other clubs and clean up the local city veterans memorial. Or they get together with other clubs and write holiday greeting cards during the holidays to act as service people. So it's not like they don't do the 5 avenues of service, but they're doing what's meaningful to them. So, and you know, we have these new innovative clubs. There's all kinds of different names for them, but some people just want to serve, you know, end human trafficking, or they want to serve the environment. So they have eco clubs and things like that. So yes, forming new clubs is a way to grow Rotary. And if you look at the world, this is a gross overgeneralization, but it's true in general. The Northern Hemisphere, like where we are, is losing membership. Not in every case, but in most cases. The Southern Hemisphere is gaining membership, except for like New Zealand and Oceania and some areas like that. So when you dive deep into the numbers, what we find out is that, and this kind of makes sense if you think about it, in the Northern Hemisphere, we're losing more clubs than we're starting. Okay. In the so we're losing membership in general. The overall member number is going down because they're losing more clubs than we're starting. Southern Hemisphere, they're starting more clubs than they're losing, they're growing. So it is important. Now, it's interesting because back in about 96, our average club size was about 60, just over 60. Now it's just under 30. So we're starting more clubs, but our clubs are smaller. And you can go with examples around the world, and there's some clubs that have 1,000 people. I'm not saying there's not big clubs, but the reason is because people want to serve in different ways. So I like this little picture here. We went to our state fair because this is when we were trying to start the Rotary Club of Minnesota Veterans, which has now changed its name to the Rotary Club Serving Veterans. But it was a way of doing something different and attracting new people that we haven't had in Rotary. So it's interesting.
Tom, if
So
I might add to that real
please.
quick.
Yes, sir.
Our district governor, John, and if you're on, John, speak up. But bottom line is he has heard this, aware of it. He's tagged a current veteran, and we're working with the club creation team to do a very similar unfolding.
Love it.
And at the same time, look at how we can involve companion clubs via some of the bases nearby us.
That's fantastic. I love that. And if you guys get it chartered or you need help chartering, let me know. If you get it chartered, I'm happy to come to the ceremony if I have enough
Oh,
frequent flyer
awesome. Thank
miles.
you.
So we bring them in, we engage them, we retain them, we start new clubs, but wrapped around all of that is this club culture. So, you know, I often get a lot of questions about, well, how can we bring young people into Rotary? Well, you know, if you don't have young people in your club, it's going to be hard to bring young people in because they might not feel like they fit in. So you have to work on your club culture to get it to be the way young people want. So maybe you bring in groups of young people, 3 or 4 at a time, and have them be a class so they have each other. Maybe you have them pick their own service project, what they want to do, and do it together so they feel like they're a part of it. Um, so club culture is important. Um, and the best way to figure out if you have a good club culture, I mean, you know it, right? If you're raising money, more people are joining, it feels right, you know you have a strong club. If they're rowdy at the beginning of the meeting, like you guys were, I know that it's a good club. If they're kind of quiet and kind of silent, uh, they're all sitting at the same table every week, maybe it's not so good. But you could send out a survey, and there's all different kinds of ways to do it. There's 7 different kind of assessment tools on the Rotary International My Rotary website. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. You could take one of those and put it into SurveyMonkey, make it as simple as you want. In a smaller club, you could just pick up the phone and call a sample of members and ask a few questions. Do you like when we meet? Do you like where we meet? Do you like our service projects and our socials? What would you change? And then if you get some interesting open-ended questions like that last one, you could have focus groups. But it's important to know what they're thinking. And as you come in as club presidents, you president-elects, um, a survey is a good way to solve a problem. A couple of years ago, I got a call from our university club, and the president calls me and says, Tom, I don't know what to do. Half the people want to do away with the 4-way test, and half the people want to keep the 4-way test. What do I do? And I didn't have a heart to give him well, you can't really change the 4-way test without going to our council legislation, which is once every 3 years. Da, 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 da. I said, do a survey and call me back. So he did a survey and he called me back a couple weeks later. And it turned out that it wasn't half the club that wanted to do away with the 4-way test. It was about a 16-person club. And it wasn't half that wanted to keep the 4-way test. It was only 2 people that responded that wanted to do away with the 4-way test. They're the most vocal to. And so that's why the president felt it was 2 people. And society's rough nowadays, especially in the United States, because, we're divided. We're divided by politics and other things. And Rotary's not a political organization. It's not a religious organization. So if you get in trouble, it would be the right way to do is a survey. The easy way, I guess, if you're president is just say, let's say you decide, I don't want an invocation anymore. I just want to do a thought of the day, that kind of thing. Great for changing it up, but it's a little bit better if you do a survey, because then you could say, when people start calling you, say, I'm quitting this club because you did away with the invocation, which is a prayer, what we call a prayer up here. Or a pledge of allegiance, some people want to do away with that. You can say, well, we took a survey and the majority of people want to keep the invocation, or the majority of people want to, do away with the invocation. But a survey could be your best friend as a president, because you're letting people vent. You're asking them so they feel like they're being heard. And if you implement, then they have buy-in, and then they start bringing their friends and family because they feel like they belong. So, like I said, positive club experience, these things happen. People have fun. They're laughing. They're having friendships. The one thing I would encourage, remember when we said people join to have friendships? When you're running a meeting, and Kurt, this would go for you or John as the district governor line, but it would also go for the club presidents. Give people a time to interact. Have 5 or 10 minutes of friendship or whatever. In a club meeting, it's important. Some of our older clubs, I'm in a morning club and we're a little bit more casual. I don't have to wear a tie or a jacket or anything. My wife's meets at the same place, but on Thursday afternoon instead of a Tuesday morning. Her club, which is the largest club in our district, they have about 150 people. We have about 80 people. They are very formal. So they have that show, and you're only allowed a minute if you're speaking. They thank the greeters. They do this, this, and this, and this. They have the speaker award, a little honorarium, da, 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 da. But there's not any time. And I love my wife's club. They always say they're the best club in the universe. So, and they're a really good club. But every club, no matter how good you are or how bad you are, you can improve that club experience, right? You could always make something better. And an easy way to do that is have this time for friendship. And if you're a smaller club, you could do a 4 fun facts or something and have one member say, these are 4 things you might not know about me. I love parades, or I do woodworking, or whatever it is. So club experience is important. Number 1 reason why people leave a club. So now, I'll stop sharing here. Now is my favorite part of any presentation. That's getting your questions, because I want you guys to leave with the answers to the things you were wondering before you came in. So this is the fun part for me. And so ask anything you want, and I will try to answer. And if I don't know, Kurt will answer for me. Kurt,
Simply unmute yourselves and pose a question and be courteous, as some of us might step on each other's words here in a moment, okay? Ray, you look like you're first. Go for it.
This relates to the early conversation about leads being sent to districts, to clubs, as opposed to the districts. If there's a lead and that person is interested in a geographic area that has multiple clubs, will that lead go to all of those in that geographic area?
it will go to more than one club. And it's not live yet, so this may change. But right now, and it's powered by Salesforce, which is supposed to be the #1 in the world, CRM, customer relationship management software. It'll go to several clubs that fit their answers that fit best for them. So it'll ask them questions, and I don't know the exact questions, but it'll ask them things like, do you want to meet at night? Do you meet at the morning? Do you want to meet once a week? Do you want to meet every once in a while? Do you want to have a Rotaract experience, which younger people, or do you want a Rotarian experience? So it'll be sent to a number of clubs. If none of those clubs respond within a certain period of time, I think it's 2 weeks or something like that, maybe it's a week, it goes to staff and it goes to the district. So right now it goes to the district, and we have 30,000 leads a year coming to Rotary. And this isn't just low-hanging fruit. This is fruit on the ground. These are people coming to us saying, I want to join Rotary. And we only follow up with 10% of those. The 30,000,
Oh,
10%
no.
right now. Oh no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Karen. That's the right answer. Gold star for Karen. So we think this will be better. There's certain districts who are piloting the project. The exciting part I was told yesterday is this should be released end of next month or beginning of March. Now, it should have been released last year, but there's another consultant other than Salesforce that was an implementation specialist vendor. And we had talked to Lions and other groups that have used that particular vendor, and we decided it wasn't a good fit for Rotary and might not give the best results. So we stopped it. We being staff stopped it before it went out. So now we think all the bugs are out, and I have a lot of faith in it. Thank you for the question.
Next. Lisa.
I have a
Lisa.
question. So you talked about Salesforce and CRMs, and I know that's one thing that I've talked about even in our club is using a CRM when you have visitors, or like we do a big clay shoot, we have a big golf tournament, and being able to store all of, sponsors' contact information, participants' contact information, so we can set up campaigns to reach those individuals. Is there going to be an opportunity in the future to be able for the clubs to have their own Salesforce account to be able to do something like this? Has Rotary International thought about something on a larger scale for the clubs to work directly with the Salesforce account?
Thank you, Lisa, very much for the question. And not to sound like my old con law professor, but yes and no, and not in the immediate future. So Rotary runs on a CRM that the volunteers don't know about called NetForum. And so like if someone's got a flag on their record because of something happened or something like that, they have that. Right now, volunteers do not have access to that. But the technology committee has recommended, the joint technology committee, it's both the trustees and the directors, they have recommended that we look into using Salesforce in another project to have some interaction with that particular net form to get more access. Because right now, as a club officer, you can get some access to some individuals. but only within your club, only within your district. So in the future, I believe that's going to be possible, not in the immediate future. There's lots of progress that's been made. We used to have, until recently, the Rotaractors on PeopleSoft, which is no longer supported by that company, but Rotarians on Oracle. And now they're all in the same system. So we're always making progress, even though you might not feel like that when you go into My Rotary and you feel like Googling instead of going to My Rotary. But we're getting better every day. And I have friends that serve on some of those committees, and they're really smart people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question.
Tom, this is Monique.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
So what does like you've brought in a lot of new members. I remember when we were a few years ago on the membership team together. You were bringing in a lot of members. So what is like you always talk about when you change jobs, like the first 90 days are key. So like in Rotary, like what does the first 90 days look like for a new Rotary member? Like what's a healthy first 90 days? Because I think those like that initial intake of like when you first joined is probably the most crucial. So what have you seen like I guess what are some attributes or what does that look like for like a new Rotary member that you've seen where you can kind of get them engaged and for long-term membership?
Monique, are you a lawyer? Because that was a compound, complex question.
I am not a lawyer at all. I work in tech.
Okay, cool. I love the question. So it's going to take me a little bit to answer this because there were several things going on. And um, let me go in the order that you asked them. If I forget something, I wasn't taking notes because I was thinking about my answer and putting my information in the chat because somebody asked for that. So men don't multitask well, as you know. I had three older sisters, so I've been told that. Um, well, how I do it, and I've actually brought in more than 100 members into Rotary. I would keep a list because I figured I can make Rotary better if I bring people better than me into Rotary. And so that was my goal, to bring in people better than me. And I kept keeping track after 100. But most people will tell you that you have to have the 2-minute elevator speech. And I'm going to sound like a heretic. A year or so ago, we have a multi-district pets alliance, and I kind of work with that. And we stay at the Hilton Garden Inn, and there's a bar right there. And I was trying to sneak by the bar so I can go to my room and go to sleep because I was tired. And so I tried to sneak in, and they called me over to the bar. And there's a bunch of Rotarians there. I mean, Monique, there must have been 15 Rotarians at a little bar. And there was a nice young man, about 20 years old. And I swear it was like Worldwide Wrestling. All of them were attacking him like it was like an intervention. You need to join Rotary through an intervention. Everyone's yelling at him at the same way, in a positive way. And they said, Gump, come over here. And I got called to the bar. And so I said, you know, how can I help? And they said, well, we want to give your elevator speech to this bartender. And I'm sorry, I talk in stories, but it's more fun. And I said, well, I don't have an elevator speech. And they're like, what? You're supposed to be our membership expert and you don't have an elevator speech? And I said, no, the way I do it is I listen to what people want, and then I tell them how Rotary can fit into it. Because my friends that I brought in Rotary, some of them see my shirt. You can't see it, but it says Rotary on it. Or I wear a little badge. That's the new logo on my blazer. Or I wear silly glasses sometimes, you know. So people ask, you know, what's Rotary? Because they think it's my job or something. But most people say, how come that young girl from South Korea or that young boy from Valencia, pick the country, wherever our youth exchange students come from, why are they living with you? And I said, well, I'm in this thing called Rotary, and we help with peace, and we do it one child at a time. And they'll come stay with us anywhere from 3 months to 9 months. And people say, I want to do it. And then I try to talk them into Rotary. And after they asked me about it. And sometimes they say, well, we're too busy to join Rotary, but we'd love to host a student. So they host an exchange student. And we've actually got quite a few members that after they host the exchange student, because they went to Rotary events, they find out about Rotary and then they join. But in my bio, they said, about the wells in Honduras. Um, people ask me, why did you go to Honduras and what you do there? But people want different things out of Rotary. And so when I asked that young man, and this is after everyone had a good joke with me because I didn't have my 2-minute speech, and I guess I should, maybe, I don't know. But I asked him, well, where are you at and what's going on in your life and what do you need? And he said, well, I'm an engineering student and I'd really like to meet engineers so that I can get an internship and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, Rotary's got engineers, right? So I approach it. I don't know if it's the right way, Monique, but that's how I approach it. And I totally forgot what your second part of the question was.
Well, it's just once you get them to join, like that first 90 days, like I think is like the crucial part of like, obviously if the
Yes.
orientation is the important part of that, but
Yeah.
like what does that look like for a new member, like to keep them engaged so that, they've already said yes, but like to stay, right?
Thank you so much for asking that question. That's so important. And, it's really hard to do talks like this, Monique, because they say you got 20 minutes to tell us everything about membership. Some people at like pets or district conferences, you have 8 minutes to tell us everything about membership. Really? Okay. But one of the things I want to tell you about, I couldn't tell you because it was just too much. So this is why I would love to come here and just answer questions because then I know I can answer what people want. So let me first tell you about what Rotary International is doing right now that's new to Rotary. And it's a program, it's a mail campaign that they call a drip campaign. So when you first join, you get an email from President Francesco that says, Monique, thank you for bringing in Monica, or thank you for bringing in Jim or Sally. You're growing Rotary, da, 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 da. But then the new member gets an email. Then in 2 weeks, they get another email. 30 days, they get another email, and it goes to 120 days. The last one is talking about the 7 areas of focus and what we do. So, and I'm glad Monique asked this question because I was telling you about the 150,000 we gain, but we lose 150. But that's not the scariest part to me. The scariest part to me is when we lose these folks, because we lose 10% of our members within the first year that they join. And then we lose, within 3 years, we actually lose just over 50% of our members within the first 3 years. So if we can keep members in for 3 years, we're good to go. So what I would suggest, if your club doesn't have, um, oh, okay, I'm sorry, Lisa, can you just tell us what your question is? Because it seems to relate to this.
Oh, I was just recapping.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that because I can't type and
Go for it.
So, yeah. So it's really important, Lisa. Thank you for doing that. We lose 10% in our first year. So what do we do? Well, Monique, I would say if your club doesn't have a new member orientation, then uh, we need to have a new member orientation. I love the way the Philippines. Oh, I'm sorry, Kurt, go ahead.
I was just going to add new member orientation. I always feel is like, we also need mentors, seasoned Rotarians
Absolutely.
to companion with these individuals
Yeah.
very intentionally, not just haphazardly.
Kurt's 100% right. We need mentors. But when we do new member orientation, we do mentors, make sure it's a two-way deal. Don't have a new member orientation like we did when we first started. It's like, this is our club. We do this, this, and this. Here's our president. Da, 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 da. We never ask them what they are. You might have a member who, and my family's into youth exchange, so I'll use that as an example. I love youth exchange Rotarians because they're super, super passionate because they've been through a whole lot together. And I got a lot of stories about that too. But there might be someone who's never done Rotary Youth Exchange, but they were in AFS, maybe as a student, or they've done it, or maybe through school. When my son, we have one son, we're on the Better Late Than Never program. He's just 21 now, but we would have exchanges through that too. But that person may want to do that. So ask them what they want to do in that new member orientation. Don't assume because they're a banker that they want to be your treasurer. They might want to do public image stuff. And same thing, Kurt, with your mentorship. You might be able to mentor someone in what you do for a living and introduce them to folks, but let's learn from them. Maybe they're really good at technology. We're going through a zoning realignment that at Rotary International happens once every 8 years. Happens 9 years this year because we got to get something through this council legislation before we did it. But anyway, we have a young gentleman who is a whiz at artificial intelligence, and he's has 7 different programs running inside this master program so that when we try to pair up districts, there's not an island and do all this stuff. So anyways, cross mentorship, do that. And Monique, I try to do things that are kind of fun and silly because they work. And my wife would tell you I'm strange because I do these things. But, as club president, I would do, when there's a special occasion, I would do a little centerpiece in the table. So, like if it was a holiday time, I might put a Christmas tree up there and I would cut everyone's face up and I would put it as little ornaments and put these little trees around. And people would go and sit at the table where their picture was. Or like at Easter time, I gave out M&Ms. I had little candy baskets with, like Easter baskets, but they had M&Ms with the Rotary symbol on. And I did all kinds of stuff like that. But you can tell, Monique, if you have a problem with these cliques, everyone wants to sit at the same table. I tried to do different things to get people to sit at different tables. Like I would put a stanchion in the middle of the table, like one of those things like you had a wedding with a table number on it, but I would put a playing card there. So as I would hand, first of all, I stood outside my country club door on my first meeting because I wanted to shake everybody's hand, and people really loved it. But a buddy of mine said, "You'll never do this in winter." So I took that as a challenge and I did it all winter long. But people loved it. So one time I took the playing cards, a couple decks of cards, and I handed something. So if Bruce Stacy would get a clubs, Bruce should sit at the table that had a club on it. Or if Tanya uh, Gary would have a heart, she would sit at a table with hearts. So that's good. If you're in really a cranky club and you can't get people to do it, then do it with the new people. And what I used to do is when I brought in a new member, I'd get a cheap frame at Target for $1.50, and I put the new member's picture in it. And for the first few weeks, I would move that picture around the table so that if I can't get the cranky old Rotarians, old not in age, but they just don't want to change, then I move the new people around. And there's all different kind of ways you can do it, but shake it up. Sorry it takes so long answering these questions, but I feel like people come for concrete, real answers and not theoretical. And when you sit in the boardroom and you audit a bunch of committees, no disrespect, but again, it's theoretical. And we're talking about making a difference as a club president, making a difference as a district governor. And we've been talking about engagement. When we do the all leader survey, that's club presidents and district governors. And when we break the action plan down, they have these action plan priorities. The number one thing that they say that's important to them is engagement. 78%, it's engagement. So I loved how you focused in on that as a group. You guys got a lot going right in your districts and your clubs because you have all the right answers, but let's talk about them. Let's get everyone's ideas, not just mine. The cool thing about being Rotary, though, is you can travel around the world and get ideas from different places of the world, and you do get smart. And so I'm getting smarter by being with 5790 because you guys are giving me ideas that hopefully can help out another club in Texas or in North America or around the world. So thanks for having me.
Can I share a thought with Tom and some of the other folks on the call?
Please.
Kind of gets to getting feedback, especially from new members. We've got a fairly extensive onboarding and mentoring program in the club, but one of the things that we added to it I'm going to say about 4 years ago was we thought our mentoring program and our onboarding program was great. It's real easy to say we have a mentoring program and so it's terrific. But what we decided to do was to have a feedback session with the new person after they've completed our formal onboarding mentoring program. And during that onboarding session, what we're looking for is what has worked for them, how do they feel about it, where do they feel like they fit, do they sense that there's a place that they want to contribute. And as a result of that feedback, Tom, we've changed things in our club as a result of the feedback from our new members. Sometimes the new members will say, you guys are too cliquish, um, or it's difficult to interact with the board members. We feel it's, and so we've added that, and we've learned so much. Those are confidential conversations with the members so that they feel comfortable with it. It's worked very, very well.
Well, Ray, thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes, when you want to spice things up like a sitcom, you bring in a new character. So sometimes when I'm speaking at institutes and stuff, I ask a staff member to come too. And I remember in our last institute, it was here in Minneapolis for his own pair. The staff member talked about the constant feedback loop, which is exactly what Ray's talking about. And Ray, when we ask, I'm just here saying, please do a survey once a year, I'd be happy. Because, most clubs, I don't do it anymore, but I used to say, raise your hand if you do a survey. And very few hands would go up. And then I would say, Ray, the second question, I'd say, when do you do your survey? When do you do it? And most of the people do exit surveys. Now, I did a little research for Stephanie last year, not through Rotary, but just in general. And they say that, no offense to people who are doing exit interviews because they're important, but I don't like them personally as well as other surveys. I like what Ray's saying, the constant feedback, because let's face it, if you're asking someone when they leave, first of all, Rotarians are nice people. They might not give you the answer, but
Yeah.
also you can't do any corrective action in time to save that member.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ray, for saying that. Kurt,
No,
does Vince,
no,
yes,
I'm just.
there's Andy's got his hand.
Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Tom, I want to mention something that my sweet wife Ginger did when she was incoming president of our club back in 1920. She 19
When Rotary
slash
first
20.
started?
Not yeah, yeah. She's
I'm
held
gonna
up
tell
good.
Ginger, Andy.
She's held up pretty good. She and Paul Harris, old friends. No, she did talk about surveys. She did this, and I thought it was really genius, and it really worked out. She sent an email out to all the members right before she became president. She did it like in June, and said, "Hey, I'm gonna." She's an accountant, and said, "I'm gonna sign up Genius for a couple of business days at her office to come by for 15 minutes, and they could come by." She blocked the time, and I think that was one of the best things ever. She was one of our founding members, and she knew all about the club and had a really good pulse of things. She really did. But she heard things that were compliments. She heard criticism. She heard things that you get in a human conversation that you don't get on a questionnaire. And I'm telling you, that was the secret sauce for her. And she had that confidentiality with those individuals, and just that they got to be heard, and she got to explain why we do some things too. She got to justify ways some of the things and repair, like you talk about, Tom, kind of repair the relationship if there was a problem there, you know. And I'm telling you, just doing something simple like that, and I think you should do an annual, formalized survey, but just doing a listening tour like that and kind of knock it out real quick. And it's a couple of days. You've got to give the time, and people could sign up, however that looks for each individual person. That was just a real win for her in the club because that really made her a better leader. And those people were heard, and it was real um, factual. And again, it was some myth busting involved in what as well. And it was but she got some really good feedback, really
You
good
know,
feedback.
just a
That's
little
a good
follow-up to
point.
that. Our club has done that. I'm in Andy's club. Our club has done that every year since then, and our members really look forward to that. They want to know when that is. And so, yeah, that's just been a terrific addition to our club.
I love that. When I was going to be, I'm sorry, Kurt, go ahead.
No. Finish up, Tom, because I just want to be
Okay.
cautious and care and
Okay.
concerned about your time. That's all.
Okay. Just, I can go late. Just a few short things in response to all that.
He took the tie off. He's ready. He's ready. He's ready.
Sorry, I hope you guys don't mind. It's been one of those weeks. So, yes, Ginger's a genius for sure. And I never tell this story because I don't want to overload staff, but one thing, there's many things that impressed me about um, Andy and Ginger, but Andy did some research project utilizing the Rotary staff in our department that deals with the history. And he figured out exactly how many people and who they were that asked him to join Rotary all the way back to Paul Harris. And it was only what, like seven? It was like
Yeah.
Kevin Pickney.
Yeah, wasn't that bad.
So yeah. And I love that story. And I really wish I would have thought of it and done that, but I never tell it because I don't want staff to get over.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, they would get overwhelmed. Yeah, the genealogy, yeah, the connection. But it's the power of invitation. People
Yeah.
invite one to the
Yeah.
next. Yeah.
But Ray and Andy are absolutely right. I mean, how many of you remember that a mayor in New York, Ed Koch, remember?
Yeah.
What did he say? Karen, you're shaking your head. What did he used to go around
No, I
saying?
remember him, but I don't remember what he said.
Anybody remember what he
Ray
said?
probably does. He was there. Yeah.
Oh, you're mute.
You're muted, Ray. You're muted, Ray.
There we go.
Yeah, he said a lot of things. So
Yeah. But he'd always go around saying, "How am I doing? How am I doing?" And Andy's 100% right. You could just ask, especially if the average is really less than 30, you could just ask some people. When I was going in as club president, I wanted to have lunch or breakfast or coffee with every single person in the club to find out what they wanted. But how did I organize that? Because I knew I might run out of time. I started with the grumpiest person in our club because there was a really old grumpy guy, nice, but he was super grumpy. And so I asked him, why, I didn't say, why are you so grumpy, but in a roundabout way, what can make you happy? And he said, we used to, we used to, you hear that a lot, I'm sure, in your clubs. We used to talk about our vocations. We used to talk about our jobs, and I never get to talk to people about my real estate business. So in my first business, I had him get up and give him 5 minutes, tell us about yourself. And he talked about his business, and he was happy till he retired from the club. He's too old to come now, but so Andy's right, Ray's right. We need to do that. And so Kurt, I just want to ask Lisa one question before I answer whatever you have. But Lisa, does District 5790 have a district-wide e-club?
I do not think we do have a district-wide e-club.
So you're about to be district membership person, right?
Yes.
The most important person in the district. Sorry, DG line. I would suggest you consider maybe starting a district-wide e-club. And the reason I say that, North Carolina, it was about 5 years ago, decided they wanted to grow, and they started to call the people in the last 5 years. Do you guys use DACDB or do you use Club Runner?
We have both, but very, very mostly Club Runner.
If you go back in Club Runner, you can get access to the last 4 or 5 years. You can call those people and say, hey, why did you leave Rotary? Oh, I got a job and I can't go to a meeting now in the breakfast room. You could do it that way. But every time, and remember Monique asked about that letter campaign. We also have another one going that if you leave Rotary, you get a letter saying, have you considered another club in your area? But if District 5790 has all these people leaving the club, but they're not leaving North Texas, you can offer those people when they leave, hey, I know you might be moving somewhere, whatever, but do you want to join the District 5790 e-club? Because they meet online. It doesn't cost much because we don't have the fixed cost of the meal at the country club or hotel or whatever. If you do that, Lisa, I think you can get 15 members. You used to have 25, but thank God we finally got through council legislation. It took me 6 years, but that's another story. You can now start a club with 15 members instead of 20 members. So you can start, we need 20 members sometimes in the terracotta clubs because you got to negotiate with the hotel for your meals and all that stuff. But an e-club can get along with that. If you start that, it's just somewhere that when people leave, you can say, hey, why don't you think about this? And you'll save some people.
Okay, I will accept
Tom,
your challenge. We will look into that.
Yeah, because Tom, what you've just triggered, in my opinion, are e-clubs for even areas that aren't necessarily the district-wide, but may have like Wichita Falls, which has got
Yeah.
4 clubs, 6 clubs already, but maybe it fits that dynamic where there's a different time, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You can refer them to somewhere else in Rotary too.
Excellent. Tom, I want to open the door or close the door, I guess I should say. But for the most part, I want to say thanks to everybody for hanging in there with us. But Tom, thank you for your presentation, your effort. your leadership, and everyone open your mics or whatever and just kind of say, hey, thanks, Tom. And I put his Facebook link in the chat so you could all see it. And you can follow Tom. And it's a great thing to follow, because I followed Tom and I saw a Zoom presentation where he did this with a group in Malaysia, to a leadership institute. And he was, if I'm correct, you were here in the States when you did that. So a variety of ways that Tom is out in the world of Rotary.
It was Thanksgiving and my wife wouldn't let me go to Malaysia during so they took my video instead.
Well, fantastic. We look forward to seeing you.
Good for
pets.
her.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you all.
Those of us at
Thank
Pets
you.
look forward to seeing you there, Tom. Thank you very, very much. And
Thank you,
I will
Tom.
be forwarding.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye,
Thank you,
Tommy.
Tom.
See you later, Gator.
Okay, I'm gonna get in touch with you guys later to see if Lisa started that e-club.
All right, we'll see you at
I
Pets. We'll see
I
you at
don't
Pets.
take over until July 1st, so do I get some grace time?
You do, you do, of course.
I'll see you at Pets, Tom.
Okay,
Bye. See you later.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Tom.
Hi, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Kurt.
Hey, you bet, Bruce. Woohoo!
An e-club. Interesting.
We have an opportunity there. We really do. And I just texted via chat one of the women that was out of Abilene. Her name is Ada. Her name is AIDA, Ada. I think she's attending things most of the time and everything. So I said, Ada, the E-Club in Abilene's got potential. I think that in a more a little more closed area, an E-Club might have a benefit greater than a district-wide. No, it could take both for that matter.
So our club, back when COVID started, and we Zoomed. And that was the year before I took over, and that was the start of our growth.
Yeah.
And we still Zoom. So people that cannot make it, they know to get, they have the link and they know to get on. So we've got a TV in the corner, and we have our meeting broadcasted up there, and people are Zooming on it.
Yep. We have the similar going on, because you're right. We Zoomed at COVID and continued. And but the E-Club dynamic is totally online, is how that plays. I know that it's got potential. We'll have to explore it. Somebody can jump off with it and we can get it targeted and launched and see what happens. But we got possibilities. I think there's good possibilities. Yeah. I guess I've stopped the recording here.